In past times that I've taught this course, weighted averages has been a problematic concept, and it is an important one. So I want to go through an example that has some relevance to you as you take this class. If you look at the syllabus, you can see that there's 5 different categories of grades, and you can see the total points possible for each category. So for example, you can see that over the entire course, your spreadsheet and quiz performance has a lot more weight. We say weight, meaning that factors into your final grade more than, say, the final project or the final exam. So let's take a look at how we might calculate the final grade for a fictitious student. This is Florence Nightingale, we're calling her, one of the greatest nurses of all times, arguably, and we'll learn more about her later. Before we start, I want to do a little cleanup here on things you may have already figured out, but if you haven't, here's a chance. One of them is these labels, we can't quite see them all. So how would we get this text to wrap around in a more visually appealing way? And if we just kind of click around here, we can see that the format menu has text wrapping, and wrap is one of the options. So this gives us a little more visually appealing set. And the other thing let's do is let's go ahead and underline that. Looks like I just missed that on the screen. Okay, so you can see what I'm doing. I'm highlighting some cells. This is the border marker, and I'm getting the underline border there. And so getting the total amount of points possible in the course isn't bad. We can do what's called the sum, and we just want the sum of these cells. So you could type in B2 colon B6, or you can just highlight them all once. So we know that there's 500 total points in the course. Now, if we're interested in our grade, one of the temptations might be to take an average of the percentages we have in each category. And if we did that, we would get 0.82, which is 82%. However, that is not the correct answer. That's not what Florence's grade in the course is. And why is that? That's because this 95% that she got in discussion journal is much more important than the 70% she got on the final, because there's many more points possible there. So overall, that's a higher total of points. So I'm going to put this in red to let us know that that's not a correct answer. And so what we might want to do is calculate how many points she actually got in each of these categories. We call this points earned in each category. And how would I know how many points she earned in spreadsheets? Well, there are 120 points possible, and she got 86% of them. So this is just a straightforward multiplication problem, C2 times B2, and that gives us the amount of points. Now it's 103.2. Probably she doesn't have exactly an 86%. Probably she has 85.8% or something. This is probably just rounded to the nearest integer. We could do that with our formula. Let me make it clear, you do not have to do this, but to get a more precise answer, if we type in int, that stands for integer, that formula will round whatever this is to the nearest integer, which is probably the amount of exact points she has on her spreadsheet. And then a quick trick, we could copy this down. If you double left click on it, it will fill in everything for you. We can automatically see, and let me put an underline here too. So we can automatically see that that formula copied down and adjusted for each row. Now, if that doesn't work, you can always take that and drag it down to copy. But sometimes that shortcut works. Usually it works the first time you try it, and then after that you have to do it manually for some reason. But anyway, the important part is here that she has 411 points that she actually earned, Florence actually earned, out of 500 total. And this gives us what we really want, because we can take 411 divided by 500, and we get an answer. Now this answer is looking really funky right now. It's certainly not looking in the same format as this. So I'm going to show you how to change the format of cells. If you highlight any cells that you want to change how they get expressed, highlight them, go up to Format, Number, and you have all kinds of options. If you want it to show up as dollars, in our case, percent might make most sense. So let's do that. Okay, and you'll notice that this number we just came up with, which seemed to be a correct process, gives us the same answer as what we had before, which is an incorrect answer. So what happened here? Well, here's the danger of formulas automatically adjusting. When we adjusted this formula all the way down for these 5 cells, it correctly updated to give us exactly what we wanted. However, when we got this, the total amount of points earned, it just thought that this row was like any other row that we've been doing so far, and it just extended that formula. But this right here was an incorrect number, right? This was what we did when we did an unweighted average of our percentages. So unknowingly, Sheets just multiplied this wrong percentage times total points and gave us our total points earned. That's not how we would calculate it. If we want the total points earned, what we want to do is we want to add up these 5 categories. So just to reiterate there, the formula in these 5 was all the same type of formula. But the formula here, what we want to do is not multiply the percent times the total. What we want to do to get the total number of points she earned is to add these up here. So let's do that. Let me delete that. I'm just going to take the sum of these here. So this is the total amount of points that she actually earned. My line back in here also. And notice now my average is something different than that original average. And it turns out that this 85.2% really is a correct answer. So that really was her final grade in the class. Is there a quicker way to do this without creating an extra column? You bet. And if you've watched the video this far, you have earned a shortcut tip. However, this first method allows you to see the process behind the scenes of a weighted average, where we're really just figuring out how many points she got in each category, calculating total points she earned divided by total points possible. Now we can do that in a shortcut formula called the sum product. And what we do here is we select 2 columns, and it will automatically take the product of those 2 columns. So really, it's doing the same thing that we did here manually, but it's just doing it all automatically. And then we divide by the total points possible. And when we do that, you see that we get an answer that's very similar to this answer. So which of these is correct? Well, it turns out that this first one we got is a little more precise. Both of these are completely acceptable ways to do it. Notice that both of these would give you 85.2% if you rounded to the nearest tenth of a percent. And why is it giving us slightly different answers? Well, remember when we rounded to get the closest integer value, because that's really the number of points she had. That process gave us a little bit more precision. If we hadn't used that integer part of this formula, when we got down here to this weighted average 1, it would have also been 85.24%, which is certainly an acceptable estimate if you're trying to figure out your grade. So I would say either of these are acceptable methods to use as you're calculating the grade. The important part is that you know that it's not just a matter of averaging the percentages in each category, but rather it's figuring out how much she got in each category and how important that category was. So in the spreadsheet for this week, the application on my spreadsheet assignment was poverty. the size of the county contributed to the overall poverty percentage, the state percentage, quite a bit. So a large county, that county's poverty percentage would be counted more into the weighted average than a county that was very small, for example. Okay, let me know if you have any questions.